Welcome to the Modco podcast. Conversations about life, organization, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. This show was created to provide motivation, inspiration, and a reminder to give yourself grace. Here, we are transparent, non-judgmental, authentic, and love to have fun because sometimes you need to laugh at yourself. I'm your host, Angel. Sit back and get ready for valuable tips, resources, laughs, and more. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you've been hanging around for a while, welcome back. And I hope you brought a friend.
Welcome to another awesome and exciting episode of the Marco podcast. Be sure to grab some food and drinks and just chillax.
I'm chatting with Lindsay Dollinger. She is a women's business coach, podcast host of the Purpose, Profits, and Pixie Dust podcast, creator of the Confident and Ambitious Mastermind, Rescue Dog Mama, and Disney Lover. She has been a Spanish teacher for 16 years and started growing her online businesses in 2016. She helps women with productivity and strategy to grow their businesses with a little pixie dust thrown in. Everyone, let's welcome Lindsay to the show. Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
Hi, Angel. I am so good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for today.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you. Is there anything else you'd like to add in before we get started?
Girl, I mean, if I started adding stuff in, we would be here forever because I am so multi-passionate. I'm like, where do you want to start? But no, that very much sums up what I'm doing right now to a T.
Okay, awesome. So, you said you're a dog mama. What kind of dog do you have?
Okay, this is also kind of complicated. She is a street dog from Puerto Rico. They call them Satos is the type, but the vets here says she is a Cocker Spaniel mix, but she was a street dog in Puerto Rico. We rescued her, and she's really sweet. She's got a blue eye and a brown eye. I was gonna say black, but it's brown. So blue eye and a brown eye. And she's our little sweetie.
Oh, how old is she?
She's about 10. We don't know for sure exact age. This isn't she's a rescue, but she's about 10.
Like, cool. Awesome.
She's getting to be our little old mama. She's getting little gray hairs.
Listen, I understand, probably getting a little feisty too. Like she's like, leave me alone. She's like, leave me alone. I'm in my old lady age here because she's like, 70 in human years. So she could be gray hairs, a little grumpy here, a little sassy if she wants to.
Absolutely. Can't we all, right?
Exactly. And so you are also a lover of all things Disney. And so when did your love for Disney start?
I don't even remember. I feel like I have loved Disney my entire life. I am the generation where I grew up with, all of those classic Disney princess movies. So The Little Mermaid, Pocahontas. I remember Pocahontas was my first animated film. I saw it in the movie theater when it came out. I think I was like 5. And so I always loved the movies. And then my family went on our first family vacation when I think I was 5 as well, maybe 6. Maybe I just turned 6. And we went to Disney World in Florida, and then we went to the beach. And then that quickly became our tradition to go down every year on spring break. So I've just kind of really grown up loving Disney. And it's a whole nother different type of experience when you're an adult. And then especially as an entrepreneur, when I started my own businesses and then I went back to Disney, I'm like, man, this man was just a freaking genius. Like, look at this empire he built. Look at all the creativity. And so I find that when I go there now, I become more creative and I start looking at, the way that they are doing their customer service model and their packaging and providing this whole experience. I'm like, there's really just so much you can learn from the Disney empire. So that's when I started, incorporating it into my business as well, because I'm like, this is just so fun. You can't walk away, unless you're like sick or something, like you can't walk away from Disney having like a bad time. Like no one is in Disney and not smiling unless you need a nap.
Go
to your hotel, cool off a little because it's a little hot.
Very hot.
But in general, like you're having a great time. And so how can we duplicate that like in our ordinary life has been something that I've on a mission to figure out.
Okay. You would make really great friends. Well, my son, he's 8 now, but his kindergarten teacher obsessed with Disney. Like you never saw her without a pair of Mickey mini ears on. She had them in
Uh-huh.
just like all like different colors, different themes, everything. And one day I did see her and I actually didn't recognize her. I was like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "I just
Oh my
had a
gosh.
really, really bad headache." Yeah, she's like, "I just had like a really, really
Oh,
bad headache and I couldn't, the headband was hurting my head." Like even in her yearbook picture, she has the ears on
oh, I love
and her
that.
whole, yes, like whole class was just decorated at different Disney themes and stuff. And I'm just wondering, she says every time she goes, she obviously gets a new pair of ears.
Mhm.
And she goes like, I think a couple of times a year. And I'm just like, those things cost like $60 a
Yeah.
piece. Like you, I mean,
Oh yeah.
I would love to see her collection. So I think the two of you would get along
We
really
should
well.
connect. Yeah, because I feel like I have, you know what? I think this past trip, because I just went down about a month ago, was like
Okay.
my first one in a long time. I don't think I bought a pair of ears. Now my sister bought two though. So like I feel like I felt like I bought a pair. But
Yeah, okay, I got you.
I didn't buy, yeah, I didn't buy the pair of ears. And I have quite the collection as well, but they do sometimes hurt your head.
Yeah,
So I
I mean,
understand.
she literally wears them every single day, so I can only imagine like the headaches
Wow.
that
That
she
is
has. Like,
dedication.
yeah, he's in the third grade now, so he's been at the school for 4 years, and in the 4 year time frame, I've seen her without a pair of ears on maybe twice. Once definitely when she had
Wow.
the headache, but maybe twice, and like that's what she's known for are
That's
her
really
ears.
cool.
So
I like
yes, but
that. Own it. Own it. Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
own it. And I love to hear like adults. Like I heard somebody say one time that's like, "Yeah, I want to take my son to Disney, but he's getting kind of old, and I need to hurry up and do it before he gets too old." And I was like,
Mm,
"Adults go to Disney."
no,
She's like,
for sure.
"No, that's just." She's like, "That's just stupid. Like you shouldn't go to
There's a
Disney
lot
as
of
an
people.
adult without a kid." I was like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, there's like a whole crowd that does that. It's just adults that go to Disney by themselves, and you
Yep.
may not want to say that in front of them because." You you might end up a little injured there. So there are adults that love Disney.
Yes.
So
Well, it's
yeah.
so funny. I host a yearly retreat and I started doing them in Disney like 3 or 4 years ago. And there's so many people who come who've never been to Disney. They're coming, for the business retreat portion of
Right.
it. But once I take them to Disney and or here's the other thing, they've either never been to Disney or they've never been to Disney without their kids. And so
Mm,
I hear so many comments like, this is a completely different experience without kids. Like, this is so awesome. Like, best
mhm.
day ever. And I'm like, don't knock it till you've tried it.
Right.
Because it can be,
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been with little kids. I don't think I've ever been with little kids because I don't personally have kids. Um,
Okay.
so I can't speak on that, but like I see other people's families, and I've been with my friends with their kids. Um, but it's a lot of fun as an adult. So don't knock it without trying it is what I say.
Right. I'm with you on that one. So all right, well, cool. So you said that you have been an entrepreneur since 2016. So how did you
Yeah.
get started? How did you go from being a Spanish teacher to you're actually my second Spanish teacher that I've had
Oh,
on here as well. Yeah. So how did you go from
cool.
being a Spanish teacher to
Yep.
being an entrepreneur?
Okay, the Cliff Notes version is that because I know everyone has like the long version, right?
Yeah.
Cliff Notes version is that in 2015 my mom passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And just it just threw me like we were expecting it because she had breast cancer and she'd had it for a long
Okay.
time, but it just really threw me for a loop. And my family is extremely close. Even as adults, I talk to my dad every day. I live with my sister.
Mhm.
And we live 10 minutes from my dad. And so when my mom passed away, I just felt like this huge chunk of me was missing. And my normal everyday life, like just wasn't cutting it anymore. I was just kind of like going through the motions. And, that's part of grief too, I'm sure. And
Right.
anyway, I was working out. I love working out. And the woman who owned the gym that I worked out at was a pretty high up beach body coach, which I think it's called Body now. She was a beach body coach in network marketing. And she was like, "Hey, you should join our company. Like, you should try this. You love the products anyway." And I was like, "Nah, I've heard about that scam, that pyramid scheme. Like, that's not for me." She was like, "Hey, just hop on this call, see what you think." And I hopped on this call with her team, and it was like this community that I was really craving that I didn't even know existed. And so this was like, this was using Zoom back before we all had to use Zoom and do stuff on Zoom,
Okay.
right? So 20,
Right.
2016, this is like the very beginnings.
Oh
And
yeah.
So I realized I could have this whole community online, and these women didn't know me before 2015, like before my mom passed away. So they were okay with me dealing with grief right now. Like they weren't expecting me to show up in a certain way that I wasn't ready to do yet. You know what I mean? Like it was
Right.
almost like I could like invent this new identity. Um, and so I ended up signing up, I ended up doing it. I loved it. I became really successful pretty quickly because I was determined not to be the icky salesy network marketer. So I listened to trainings. I got on YouTube. I read all the books. I watched my friends who were in brick and mortars, what they were doing, my friends who were real estate agents, what are you guys doing? And then I tried to apply some of those things to my own business, treating it very seriously like a business, building a personal brand, showing, all these pieces, so that I wasn't being the icky salesy marketer, quote unquote, if you're not
Okay.
if you're not watching some
Yeah,
video,
no, I got you.
air quotes. And so then long story short, people started messaging me and they were like, "Hey, how are you doing this? What are you doing? You're working full time. You're doing all these things. How are you doing this? And it doesn't come across salesy. How are you finding the success?" And so I started first coaching women in the network marketing space, but then my friends were coming to me in other businesses that weren't network marketing and were like, "Hey, can you help me with my social media marketing business? Can you help me with this? Whatever." I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that." So it just very organically grew to me coaching women how to grow their business online with branding, with systems. And I started a free Facebook community. I started a podcast. I started a membership all in late 2019, early 2020. Um, and then I just started, once I got good at one thing, then adding in another. So then I added in retreats, then I added in my mastermind, and I just slowly started pivoting and growing my business to what felt right. So when I stopped really working my network marketing business and realized I really wanted to work with really any type of business, didn't have to be network marketing, is when I changed my branding from, it started out to be the Social Selling Sisterhood. That was the name of my podcast and all my stuff. And then I switched it to the Purpose, Profits, and Pixie Dust community and podcasts and all of that. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of how I found it. But I wanted to find some way to be, creative and also to have control of my income. As a
Right.
teacher, I can control whether I make additional money or not. It's set, which it's set, so it's stable. There's no like surprises, hopefully. Um,
Right.
but it's nice being like, okay, I want to do some more trips next year. What can I do to earn that money? And have that control. So it's very empowering, I think, to be an entrepreneur as well.
You touched on a point that I know a lot of, people are doing or have done. How did you build this business and, learn all these things and go through those things while also working full time? Because being a teacher is a demanding job. It's not just, your 7 to 3 o'clock. Like you have to get there early, you have to stay there late, you have to grade papers. So how were you able to fit all of this into your life?
I got super intentional on my planning, on my time, and I really was very self-aware of the things that made me money and the things that didn't. And so it's almost like self-checking yourself, like, okay, are you really working your business right now? Does this really need to get done? Or are you scrolling social media saying that you're working or saying that you're doing something, but it really doesn't need? And
Right.
also, being disciplined enough to set those boundaries for yourself for things like that, but also disciplined enough to set a schedule, to write out what needs to get done, and then actually doing it. Because we can plan all day until we're blue in the face, but if you don't actually take the time to show up for yourself, and that's the thing that I remember the most is like, you are doing this for you. The only person you're letting down right now when you're ignoring that to-do list or when you're ignoring these plans you made is you and the people that you are potentially impacting, whether that is your family, whether that is your clients that you're not showing up for, right? So really, I set aside time on Sunday morning. I plan out my week. I build in buffer time. So I want to give myself also some space to work out, because that's one of the things that I messed up on early on was I would plan too many things to do in an evening, or I would be so in the groove and I wouldn't want to stop. So then my personal health went to the wayside. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was like, well, I'm just going to skip this workout or eat fast food instead of taking time to plan out meals. And I think all that's fine in moderation, but you definitely will feel it if you do it too much, for sure. And then it leads to burnout. No one wants that. So
No.
I set up my top 3 for the week on weeks when I'm traveling to a conference or I have a lot of things going on. Then maybe it's not 3. Maybe that week is like one thing, and I'm really hoping to get done with that one thing. So knowing that there's seasons for everything too, and really taking advantage of the time I do have off. So like, for example, as a teacher, we get Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of Thanksgiving off. So Wednesday, I usually spend half of it like prepping for Thanksgiving, food, shopping, whatever I need to do. And then the other half is like 4 hours dedicated to working on my business. Whereas maybe before on a Wednesday, I would normally work my business 1 to 2 hours. So
Okay.
planning, getting really intentional, and then working those pockets of time. Like I mentioned, I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I listened to a lot of trainings, a lot of podcasts. So I would listen to those in the car on my drive home and back was about a half an hour. My lunch break. And when I was like grading papers, if it was something that I could multitask, some stuff you can multitask,
Right.
sometimes stuff you can't. But yeah, any possible moment I was soaking that stuff in, and then I made myself again act on it. So not listening to 10 trainings without doing anything, allow myself to listen to one and like, okay, you're not allowed to listen to another one until you do something from that training, you know? Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, those pieces of discipline, like it's easy to say you're going to do, but to actually show up and do it for yourself in the moment can be really challenging. But be proud of yourself when you do.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And I like the taking action, because that was an issue that I had, and I'm getting better with it, because when I would like to listen to podcasts in the car, like if it's something that I really want to focus on and like soak up the information, I want to listen to it when I'm like not easily distracted. And so if I'm in the car,
Yeah.
like I'm there in the car, I'm not distracted. I'm not, ooh, let me pick up my phone. I got a notification. Let me look at it. But then, as you said, I realized that I'm listening to like these business type of podcasts and things like that that I need to take action on. And I'm listening to it in the car. Well, obviously, I can't take action on it in the car. And then by the time I get to the point where I can take action, I'm like, ooh, what was I supposed to do again? And what was I going to do? And I've already started listening to the next one. I'm like, okay, I need to take action on this now. And it just got to the point where I was just like, okay, I am not taking any type of action. And so now I will still listen sometimes in the car, but what I do is like as soon as I get home or as soon as I get to a place where I can stop, I'll make a note in my phone like, okay, this is what you need to do. And then I'll make sure to plan that out and incorporate it into my week, because there's no point listening to it if you're not going to take the action on it and do, what it's there to help you to do. So,
Absolutely. And one more
yes.
tip with that, when you said about you get distracted checking messages and things like that. So this is harder to do when you're driving. I will add this too, but if you're listening to something or an idea comes to you, like have one place that you stick those ideas or those like aha moments, like
Mhm.
in the notes on your phone. Maybe you just send yourself a quick voice memo and you'll like transcribe it later. And then I move everything to my Trello board. That would be the other piece of that I did not mention is I am super organized. I have one Trello board and it has everything with my business in it. So it has podcast ideas, it has, post ideas, products I'm running, links to everything. But it also has what I call my ideas parking lot. So that when I'm getting all these like idea downloads or shiny object syndrome, I'm like, okay, now it's not the time to do this, but one day I want to do XYZ, and I'll just stick it on there so that it's all in one spot. And then I feel like it frees up some of your brain power. So you don't have to be like constantly trying to remember it. Like, what was that thing that I wanted to do or I said I was going to do? It's all in one place for you.
Yes, like I definitely utilize my notes app a
Mhm.
lot, because a lot of my ideas, so I will do like talk to text and put it in there, because if I don't, I'll forget it. Also my best ideas usually happen to come to me when I'm either in the shower or at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I should be asleep. Like I seriously need to get like one of those like shower whiteboards or something that I can
Yeah.
write on
Do it,
and
girl.
put it
Do
in
it.
there because my phone doesn't hear me. My phone in the shower sometimes doesn't hear Siri doesn't hear me over the shower water sometimes.
Right.
Or like
Right.
2 a.m. when I should be sleeping and my phone's on the charger and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna remember this idea in the morning. I'm gonna remember this thought in the morning. And now it's gotten to the point I'm like, I'm not gonna remember this in the morning. So let me just put it in my notes app. And then
Yeah.
and then sometimes in the morning, like the next day, I'll forget about it. And then I'll go to my notes app a couple of days later. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
when did I write this? It's like, well, I
Yeah.
really gotta start getting some sleep over here. Like
That's so funny. That's so funny. I love it. But at least you have it all in one place.
I do have a place. And like that's the issue with me, like talking back about like your schedule and like planning out your schedule and stuff like that, is that I'm a very organized person. Like I have my schedule out, but I work better at night. But at
Mm,
nighttime, that's like family time and stuff like
yeah.
that. And so it's just like I'm trying to find a balance of being able to fully function in the daytime, I should
Yeah.
say, and
Yeah.
crank out like what I need to crank out. Because 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, I don't necessarily feel like doing it. But like 10 o'clock at
Right.
night, I'm like, oh yeah, let's get coffee here. So hopefully one day
I
I'll find a balance.
Well, but I think too, like that's one of the things that we hear as entrepreneurs is like everyone has to wake up at 5 a.m. and, have this like morning routine for an hour or two. And then you work from, 7 or 8 until whatever. But if that doesn't work for you, like I am not a morning person. I have tried and tried and tried. Now, I will say, when I am forced to get up and I am awake, I can get work done and it is pretty quality work. But I'm like you,
Yes.
like I work better like even mid-morning, like 10, 11, or like this time that we're recording this podcast, like 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night. I mean, that's like my jam. And that's when I prefer to work. Now, because I do like my podcast recordings at well, I guess it's this similar time period as this, but like in the afternoon, I just know on days that I do that, like I need to take a little break right before this call. You know what I mean? So that my energy
Right.
can be like highest. So knowing those things about you, but I'm so over the like everyone has to be a 5 a.m. person. Like, girl, no, you don't. You can be successful
No.
and you can start working. Heck, I have a friend who she's super night out, kind of maybe like you, and she works best from like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And so besides if she needs to be on a call or something, like she's always doing stuff for her business at that time because that's when her energy's best. So like
Right.
make it work, do the
Yeah.
thing.
I cannot be a five. My husband is a 5 a.m. person, like 7 days a week.
Mm,
I cannot be a 5 a.m. person. Like I just can't do it. And I
yeah.
even since I'm home now, I like made myself out this schedule. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to follow that. I do not follow that schedule at all. Like the only thing that I do, so when I was working, my husband would take our son to school in the morning because that's just how our schedules work out. And I'd pick him up in the evening.
Yeah.
But now I was like, okay, I'm gonna start taking him to school in the morning because my gym is right by the school. And so my husband was getting up at like his normal 5 o'clock in the morning, going to the gym before work. Cool. That leaves me absolutely no choice but to get up and take our son to school. And I'm passing right by the gym, so I can
Yeah.
go ahead and stop at the gym and work out. Well, some mornings he doesn't get up and go to the gym. And so then when I realized
Yeah.
that he hasn't gotten up and gone to the gym, I'm like, oh, cool. Well, you could just take the kid to school because you have to go that way anyway. So you can just take him to school.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I thought you were going to the gym. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. You have to.
yeah, I'll go later. And so a few times I have gone on my way to pick him up from school. I'll just be like,
Mm,
okay, I'll go to the
yep.
gym now. And, that helps me to kill time because, again, it's right there. And I even told him, I
Yep.
was like, listen, if you don't go to the gym, then that means that I don't go to the gym. So I'm going to need you to get up in the morning and
You
go to
have
the
to be
gym.
disciplined. Yeah.
You to go. But then I get to sleep in some days. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe
Mhm. But
don't go
sometimes
to
you
the
do
gym.
that. Yeah,
You
yeah,
do.
exactly. You
Yes.
do.
So
And
it
listening to your body is one of the things that I realize is most important. Do you know your human design by any chance? Have you ever heard
no,
of
what
that?
is no.
Oh my gosh, girl, you got to go down the rabbit hole that is human design. It's basically like
Okay. No.
I'm gonna mess this up, but it's like kind of like your personality chart and your like birth chart, like astrology, like mixed into one. So everyone has like a type that you are. There's 5 types. I'm
Okay.
just curious if you're a projector because I'm a projector. And I feel like some of the stuff you said is very like projector vibes, but please look that up later
Okay,
and
yeah, no,
message me and let me know.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up at soccer practice. Actually, while I'm sitting out there at soccer practice, I'm going to
Yeah.
look this up and I'm gonna message you and let you know about it because now
Yes.
I'm intrigued. So okay,
Hmm.
human design. And you said you think
Hmm.
I'm a projector?
I think so, but I could totally
Okay,
be off. But I'm
okay,
just curious because
okay. I'm definitely
projectors are like guides and teachers, but also projector energy is best if you work like 3 or 4 hours a day and you get like a ton of stuff done. And then the rest of the time you like rest, relax in the flow kind of deal.
Ooh,
And there's lots of different like subtypes under that, but I'm just
okay.
curious.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely sounds like me. Yeah, give me a good 3 or 4 hours. Like I'm good and I'm done, and
Hmm.
then I'm just like, okay, I can chill. Sometimes I feel guilty about like the just chilling, but then I'm
Yeah.
like, I accomplished a lot. Like in those 3 or 4 hours,
Yes.
I got done a lot of stuff. So I'd rather just like crank it all out versus taking a whole bunch of little breaks. Because once I start
Yes.
taking a break, it trickles into
Same.
way too long. So, oh yep,
Yep.
I'm definitely looking that up.
Yeah. Get in that rabbit hole.
And you mentioned Trello boards, and so you said
Mhm.
that's one of your systems that you use. What
Yep.
other systems do you use, and how do you find systems that work for you?
Yeah, honestly, trial and error. I get a lot of recommendations from other people too. Like, okay, what are you using? What do you like? What do you not like? I like researching things online. That's actually part of my human design as well. I like to investigate and then try things out. That's actually the two parts of it. So there you go.
Oh,
Um,
oh, that's me. Okay,
I, yeah, it's very, yeah. See, um, and then okay, so another system that I use, for example, for booking calls, currently I'm using Calendly. I'm
Mhm.
actually switching to TidyCal because it's $29 for the year. It does, or not the year, it's $29 for lifetime. And I think I'm
Oh,
paying like 120 for a year in Calendly. So TidyCal is basically Calendly, like it does all the same features, but it was through AppSumo. Which
okay.
if you're not familiar with AppSumo, I love AppSumo. I've gotten so many. It's basically a company that like new and upcoming apps and software and things like that promote on there for like a cheap price. A lot of times
Mhm.
it's a lifetime deal. So it's actually where I got my podcast host from as well. A lot of people haven't heard from them or heard of them. It's podcast.co. They're really
Okay.
expensive now. And I got lifetime deal, $59 for life of hosting my podcast on there. Yeah. And I think I get two or three podcast streams. Super great deal. Has all the features. So anyway, look into there because that's one place that I
Okay.
find some of my software that I use for my systems.
And you said
Um,
you're switching over to Tidy Cow, but where did you find it at?
AppSumo, AppSumo.com.
Okay, cool. I'm looking that
And
up
that's
too.
another one you can go through it and it's like a rabbit hole because it's like this whole calendar and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I needed that, but I'm gonna try that, you know?
Okay.
Um, and read the reviews because some of them may not be like the greatest, but I've had great luck with everything that I've bought on there. So I
Okay.
like looking on there. But I use Kajabi. I'm a huge fan of Kajabi. So I host my websites. What else is on it? Like email, funnels, everything is there in one place. And so that allows me to create systems in Kajabi where I can add tags, I can send people, all different places. I can automate things, which is really huge as well with systemizing for me. And so I use Kajabi. I use StreamYard as well, which I know you use. And I love
Yeah.
StreamYard for systems with, as soon as I do a podcast, and this is more a process for me than like something that I, send different places, but I do my podcast, I download that. I stream it all the places. I make reels and clips out of it. I use a transcription from Descript. I use Descript for editing. And I
Okay.
use that and AI to create like blog posts and emails, social posts, all sorts of things. So I love repurposing. That's, I guess, one of my other tips. If you are short on time, especially, please repurpose your content. Like, don't just keep creating new stuff all the time because it's such a drain. It takes so much time, repurpose what you
Yes.
have. Let's see. I'm sure I have other ones that I'm not thinking of. Scheduling posts out too. I have like a system that I have set up for that where it's more a process than software systems. But the other thing with this too that I want to remind people is try out things that work for you, but things don't always have to be like super complicated. right? I think we think that we have to have like, I have friends that use Dubsado and Zapier and all these things. And it's great if you need it and it really helps you in your business. But like everything that I have in Kajabi does what Zapier does. And for Dubsado, actually I found it on AppSumo. It's called Bunny Docs. And so it basically is like the what's the other one?
HoneyBook.
DocuSign. Like
Oh,
it
yes,
does
yes,
like
yes.
contracts and all of that automated.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got that really cheap on there. I use that and I set up systems so that, when someone signs up for my mastermind, for example, I have a template already in there. I push the button, it goes out to them, it sends reminders. So anything that I can automate, to send reminders, to send the emails, I automate as much as possible in those things.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. They're great. And I was one of those that I overcomplicated it when I first started kind of using them and trying to automate them. And I was just like searching for the perfect thing. I'm like, okay, you're not going to find the perfect thing. You
Yeah.
need to figure out what it is that you need and why you need it, and then take it from there and go with that. So I did play around with Trello a little bit. I like it, but I think I just need to play around with it a little bit more to kind of really get the full swing of it. I have been using Asana. I need to go in and like
Oh,
update my Asana because I've changed some things around. So I need to go in there and get that updated. But having all of that in one place, and then I'm still a pen and paper girl. I like my pen and paper, but I do also enjoy being able to have the apps for stuff that is right there at my fingertips so that I don't always have to carry a notebook around with me and I can put it in there. So I'm the person that I'll have it in my notebook that sits on my desk, but I'll also have it in like one of my systems as well so that I can update that. So yes,
yeah.
having systems and being able to automate stuff and send stuff it's great and I love it, but I am definitely going to check out this app Sumo and
Mm.
look into Tidy Cal because I currently use Calendly as well. And it's not bad, but I mean, if I can get $29 for a lifetime
Mhm.
versus,
Yeah. Why
yeah,
not? Why not? Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
why not do it? So,
Yep.
yeah, okay,
Well,
cool.
good. I'm glad. See,
Yeah,
look, you're gonna be like finding all these new things and like messaging me
right.
like, hey,
I
girl.
got, I got that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you've given me some great gems over here. You have helped me out a
Good.
lot. Yeah. So,
Good. I'm so glad.
So with everything so you've been in business for about 8 years. You've been doing this for about eight
Yeah.
years.
Mhm.
If you had to start over today, knowing what you know
Mhm.
now,
Yeah.
what would you prioritize and why?
I think it depends a little bit what your business is. Service based, product based. I will say I think a social media presence is important, like a consistent one. I don't think it's the only way to build your business. But I think so. What I tell my clients, I'm like the 3 C's: content, connections, consistency. Like that's the 3 things that, and I guess the 4th thing would be having a killer product. So making sure, that you have a service that can transform your client in whatever way that is, you're going to follow through and provide, because I think that's the other piece is I have been, and I heard this on a podcast recently, people are more skeptical now. And I don't think it's because any industry is like saturated, because you hear that a lot. I think it's because there have been people who have burned them in the past. And
Mhm.
so we have to provide exceptional service and actually follow through with what we're providing. But also, how are people going to trust you? They have to know you. And that process takes a little bit longer than it used to because there are more people on the internet, or more people doing what you're doing. And I think it's fine. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it just means that we get to make sure that we're actually showing up. And if you're not being consistent, this is what I like to point out to my clients too. This is me as my own my own buyer experience. I shared it, for example, last week. Someone had posted an ad for like a free workshop, and I clicked. Obviously, I want to be nosy, so I clicked on
Right.
the profile who had sent the ad, because I'm like, okay, this workshop sounds pretty cool. And they hadn't posted anything online since like May 2023. So over a year. And I'm like, this is just weird. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
So I still signed up for it because I was curious and it was some good content that she provided. But I'm like, I am definitely not buying, and it was a high ticket program. I'm like, I'm definitely not buying from you with like, why aren't you showing up right now? Like, is there any
Right.
explanation of that? Like, do you have a legitimate reason? Like, why am I going to trust you that you're not going to ghost me like you've ghosted your presence online? So, like, at the end of the day, when people are making that buying decision, they're going to put money into people who are showing up, people who are actually acting like this is a business, not a hobby, not a side hustle, right? And it can be a side business for you for sure, but treat it like a business. So pick a social media account, go all in on it, try your hardest not to be afraid of what other people think because it's going to be scary. And on that line, make sure you are doing the mindset work. Make sure you're doing the mindset work. Make sure you have someone in your circle, or maybe not even in your circle, that can be your business accountability partner, can bounce ideas off of you. Because one of the mistakes that I made early on was that I was expecting all my friends who knew nothing about business to be excited and to understand why I was excited something about the Facebook algorithm. And they're looking at me like I have 5 heads because they have no idea what I'm talking about, right? So
Right.
find someone, get in an online community, hire a coach, whatever you have to do. Find your people that actually get what you're doing, and don't expect your friends and family that are outside the business realm necessarily to get it. Like, we can expect them to, I think, support us and to cheer you on. Like, that's not uh, uh, what I can't even think of the
Unreasonable.
word. Yes, thank you. Unreasonable. I was gonna say unnecessary. And I'm like, no, it is necessary. um,
I heard the un part. I was like, I think we're going unreasonable
yes,
here.
yes, thank you. Unreasonable. That's not unreasonable, but reminding yourself, I need to find my people who can support me and cheer me on. And stay consistent with whatever it is that you're doing for at least 90 days to see some results. At least 90 days. Because that's the other thing, is people are like, oh, I talked about my product for 3 days and no one bought it. So I must be a failure. And I'm like, girl, it does not happen that fast. This is a slow process. Don't compare yourself to other people. We see other people selling stuff and we're like, oh, it's going to be easy. It's not always easy. I would reckon to say for most of us, it is not an easy process at all. But we're doing it because we love it and
Right.
we have time. We're not in a rush. So don't rush it. Have fun with it. Pick one, like I said, one social media, go all in on it. But really prioritize those connections, your content, your consistency. And I think you'll have some good results.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that advice. So,
You're welcome.
and Lindsay, before we go, tell us more about your podcast, Purpose, Profits, and Pixie Dust.
Yeah. So Purpose, Profits, and Pixie Dust, we launch a new episode every Monday. I used to do 2 episodes a week. So if you go back far enough, you will find the 2 episodes a week.
That was me. I did that too.
Did you? Yeah. Well, and
I did, and I couldn't do it anymore.
yeah, I could have, but I don't want to get to the point where I don't like the show, right? And so I
Right.
was like, if I just take off this 1 episode a week, that will give, and it has kept, my energy going for it, my love for it. So, once a month I have on a guest, which Angel is going to be on my show as well. So
Good.
you can listen to her interview over there. So once a month I have a guest. The other 3 are solo episodes, and I share what's going on in my life. I share everything really tied back to business, but what's going on, what's working for me right now, what's not, tips, strategies for growing your business, and then some fun Disney sprinkled throughout, because that's the pixie dust part of it. If you're not having fun building your business, what's the point? What's the point at the end of the day? We don't want to hate every day. If you want to hate every day, go to a 9 to 5 and find one of those.
This is true. This is very
Yeah.
true. So yeah. And I have listened to Lindsay's podcast. It's fun. She definitely sprinkles in the Disney love there, but it's educational and it's fun at the same time. And as she said, I'm a guest on there. So go back and check out her episode that just aired on Monday, and you will hear me on there. So, and I thank you so much for having me on there. And
Yeah.
I thank you so much for being on here today. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
I hang out on socials everywhere at Lindsay Dollinger. So if you want to connect with me and let me know you listen to the show and tell me what you're currently working on so I can cheer you on, I would absolutely love that. And yeah, here to support you. Angel and your listeners that are awesome in any way that I can.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I will definitely get all of your information linked into the show notes as well. So y'all, fun fact, before we got on here, I actually had, it's going to be edited out, but I had to do the intro like 4 times because Lindsay jinxed me beforehand. I always like to make sure that I'm pronouncing everyone's name correctly. And then I write it out phonetically. And I have never had an issue with getting someone's name right until today when Lindsay's like, oh, if you mess it up, it's okay. I never get anyone's name right. And I was like, no, I got this.
Ever.
And 4 takes later, I finally got it right. So,
well, and I don't edit them out of my show. So you can actually go back and listen. I guarantee the last guest that I had on before Angel and possibly even Angels, you will hear me butcher their names as well. And I always say, and every time I'm like, I know that. And I messed it up. So here we are.
Here we are. Yes. Yep. Oh, well, Lindsay, it has been so much fun talking with you. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. And I will chat with you again soon.
Thank you so much, Angel.
You're welcome. Are you loving the Modco podcast? Head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and review. This helps others to find the show and gets the show listed in the recommendations section. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode and that you're able to gain something from it. Talk to you next time. Thank you to Chris Leonard for the music for this week's episode.